It's been 5 years. 2020, I visualized the population of the world. A few things might have changed in the world since 2020.
Coronavirus, Ukraine woke clashes,
Donald Trump,
war in Gaza,
Chat GPT.
So we're doing it again. Will we need more markers? Will Bangladesh fall over, knocking the rest of Southeast Asia with it? Who knows? There's only one way to find out. This is me visualizing the population of the world. And we are starting off with Canada, home to now 40 million people since a year or two ago. And if we were to visualize it more by province, it would look something like this, since most of the population live very close to the US border and almost no one up here in the north. But for the sake of efficiency, I think we will just leave it in the middle. And then we have the United States at 346 million inhabitants, the biggest nation in the Western Hemisphere and still growing strong. And then Mexico with 131 million. And we're moving on to Central America and the Caribbean. First we have Guatemala at 18 million inhabitants. I think you have grasped by now that these markers are worth 1 million people each. But for the smaller nations, like little Belize here for example, we have these tiny little cubes here worth 100,000 people each. And then we have Honduras at 10 million. We have Nicaragua at 6 million and Costa Rica at 5. We have El Salvador at 6 million and Panama at 4. And in the Caribbean we have Cuba first at 11 millions, or very close to it I should say. And then we have Haiti and Dominican Republic sharing the same island, both at 11 million inhabitants. In the UN population data, where a lot of territories are presented separately. For example, the US territory of Puerto Rico there at 3 million. And in the Caribbean we also have Jamaica at 2 million. And Trinidad and Tobago at 1 million, just off the coast of South America there. Off of the coast of Florida we have the Bahamas at 400,000 inhabitants. We have Barbados at 200,000. And St. Lucia at 100,000. And we have St. Vincent and the Grenadines and also Grenada at about the same size. And then we have St. Kitts and Nevis and Antigua and Barbuda and also Dominica right about here. These I'm visualizing with white markers, which means that they have less than 100,000 inhabitants. And here we also have a lot of different territories, mostly from different European nations. And before moving on to South America, we also have Bermuda out here in the Atlantic Ocean, Saint Pierre and Miquelon off the coast of Canada, and of course, the largest of them all, Greenland, but still just with a white marker. Moving on to South America, here we have French Guiana, territory of, you guessed it, France, with 300,000. And then we have Suriname with 600,000. And Guyana at 800,000 inhabitants. We have Venezuela at 28 million. Colombia at 53 million. And Ecuador at 18. And then we have the biggest nation in South America. Brazil at 212 million inhabitants. Peru at 34 million. Bolivia at 12. Paraguay at 6. Uruguay at 3. Argentina at 45. And finally Chile at 19 million. I have a slight feeling that that was the easy part, the very spacious American continent. Now we're moving on to Europe. It's a bit tighter, quite a few nations in a small area. And then we have Africa and Asia, which might be even worse. Why am I doing this? And why not start off in the north with Iceland, at 300,000 inhabitants. We have Finland, Norway and Denmark, all at 5 million. And we have Sweden at 10 million. And then we have the Baltics at 1 and 2 million respectively for Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. We have 5 millions for Ireland and 69 million for the UK. We have the Netherlands at 18. We have Belgium at 11 and small Luxembourg at 600,000. We have France at 66 million. We have Switzerland at 8 million. And then we have all the small nations of Andorra, and Monaco and Liechtenstein. 47 million people living in Spain and 10 million in Portugal. $84 million in Germany, 10 million in Czechia and 38 million in Poland. We have 9 million in Austria, 5 million in Slovakia and 9 million in Hungary. Moving on south, we have the two small countries in Italy, San Marino and the Vatican City, as well as 59 million inhabitants of Italy itself. Moving on to the Balkans, we have 2 million in Slovenia, 3 million in Croatia, 3 million in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and 6 million in Serbia. We have 600,000 in Montenegro, 2 million in Albania, 1 million in Kosovo, 1 million in North Macedonia, and 9 million down in Greece. We have 9 million in Belarus, 38 million in Ukraine, using the pre-2014 borders, 3 million in Moldova, 18 million in Romania, and 6 million in Bulgaria. And down in the Mediterranean we also have the 1 million of Cyprus, as well as the 500,000 of Malta. And we also have some territories here: Isle of Man, Jersey and Guernsey, the Faroe Islands, as well as Gibraltar. And we have two nations both in Europe and Asia, starting with Russia, with its population mainly in Europe, in total 144 million people. And Turkey, with its population mainly in Asia, in total 87 million. Moving on to Africa, we are starting with the 117 million people of Egypt. Then we have Libya at 7 million, Tunisia at 12 million, Algeria at 47 million, 38 million in Morocco, and 500,000 in the disputed Western Sahara territory, 5 million in Mauritania, 24 million in Mali. Moving on down the coast, we have 18 million in Senegal and 2 million in the Gambia, and about the same in Guinea-Bissau. 14 million in Guinea, 8 million in Sierra Leone, 5 million in Liberia, 32 million in Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, 34 million in Ghana, 9 million in Togo, 14 million in Benin. And we have 23 million in Burkina Faso, 27 million in Niger, and the most populous nation on the African continent, Nigeria, with 235 million people. Chad, 20 million. Sudan, 50 million. Eritrea, 3 million. Djibouti, 1 million. Central African Republic, 5 million. South Sudan, 12 million. Number 2 on the continent with 133 million inhabitants, Ethiopia. 19 million in Somalia. 29 million in Cameroon. 1 million in Equatorial Guinea. 2 million in Gabon. And 6 million in the Republic of the Congo. 50 million in Uganda. 56 million in Kenya. 14 million in Rwanda. And close to the same in neighboring Burundi. 111 million in the DRC. 69 million in Tanzania. 21 million in Zambia. 38 million in Angola. 35 million in Mozambique. 21 million in Malawi. 16 million in Zimbabwe. 2 million in Botswana. 3 million in Namibia. 1 million in Eswatini. 2 million in Lesotho. 64 million in South Africa. And left in Africa we have a bunch of island nations, starting with the biggest one of them, Madagascar, with 32 million inhabitants. We have 500,000 living in Cape Verde and 200,000 in São Tomé and Príncipe. We have 1 million living in Mauritius and 800,000 in the Comoros. Then we have the French territories of Mayotte and Réunion. And we have the British territory of Saint Helena, and finally also the Seychelles. Second to last continent, we are moving down to Oceania and starting with the 26 million people living in Australia. 5 million in New Zealand and 10 million in Papua New Guinea. We have 800,000 living in the Solomon Islands, 100,000 in Micronesia and 37,000 in the Marshall Islands. And then we have the small nation of Palau and the American territories of Guam and Northern Mariana Islands. We have 300,000 living in Vanuatu and about 200,000 on the French territory of New Caledonia. We have close to 1 million people living in Fiji and just around 10,000 living in Tuvalu. And we'll continue with Tonga and the French territory of Wallis and Futuna Islands. And then we have the New Zealand islands of Niue and Tokelau, as well as Samoa and American Samoa. We have the New Zealand territory of Cook Islands and we have Kiribati. And finally we have French Polynesia and the small nation of Nauru with 12,000 inhabitants. So, just one continent left. One would be inclined to believe that we are close to being done, wouldn't one? But still fair bit left. Let's continue with the Middle East, shall we? Beginning up in the Caucasus, we have 3 millions in Georgia, 2 millions in Armenia, and 10 million in Azerbaijan. 5 million in Lebanon, 9 million in Israel, 5 million in Palestine, and we have 25 million in Syria. 11 million in Jordan, 46 million in Iraq, 5 million in Kuwait, 34 million in Saudi Arabia, 1 million in Bahrain, and 3 million in Qatar. 11 million down in the United Arab Emirates, 41 million in Yemen, and 5 million in Oman. 92 million in Iran. And moving into Central Asia here, we have 20 million people living in Kazakhstan. 36 million in Uzbekistan. 7 million in Turkmenistan, as well as in Kyrgyzstan. And we have 10 million in Tajikistan. 43 million people living in Afghanistan. And we have 253 million people living in Pakistan. And here I have to get some help from some already made blocks, because that place is too small to stack all those people. I guess I should also stay away from the disputed territories here in the north, so I don't accidentally endorse something I shouldn't. We have 3 million in Mongolia. And I guess there is no point in procrastinating anymore. Here we go. It is crazy to believe that each of these markers represent 1 million people. Sort of trying to keep the shape of China in the distribution of the population. Of course, the vast majority lives in the eastern part of the nation, and very few in Tibet and Xinjiang and so on in the west. We'll see if I can keep that up all the way. I don't know how high I can stack these without it all crashing into the Pacific Ocean. I know, of course, that there are a lot of question marks over the population data coming out of China. A lot of experts believing that the actual number might be a lot lower, but since we don't really have any accurate data, we are going with the official numbers here that the UN is using as well. Oh, jeez, it's taking forever. I am seeing red spots. Guess that would be the Great Fall of China. Pun intended. So here we go again, I guess. I think everything that's fallen is removed. Hopefully I can reinforce this part of it and apparently not build that high, because gravity is a... I've tried to reinforce it from this side, so when it'll fall next time, it'll fall the other direction at least. Forever grateful that I don't live in an earthquake-prone area. So as long as I don't breathe, I think China will stay up. Now I only have to add the 2 billion or so other people who live around China. That can't be any problems ever. Okay, let's do the Far Eastern nations first, and then we're moving down to the Southern and Southeast Asia. Moving on to the territories China more or less claim, we have Hong Kong with 7 million people. And we have 700,000 living in Macau. And then of course we have 23 million people living in Taiwan. 26 million in North Korea. 51 million in South Korea. 123 million in Japan. And moving on to India, we luckily have these already made blocks, because otherwise this would be absolutely impossible. And there we have it, the close to 1.46 billion people living in India, the most populous nation in the world. And then we have one more nation held together by glue, Bangladesh, home to 174 million people, nestled here, right next to India, if I may. 54 million in Myanmar. 7 million in Laos, 71 million in Thailand, 17 million in Cambodia, 101 million living in Vietnam. We have about 400,000 in Brunei, 35 million in Malaysia, 5 million in Singapore, 116 million in the Philippines, 23 million in Sri Lanka, 500,000 in the Maldives, 1 million in Timor-Leste, and with that we are down to the very last nation, Indonesia, with 284 million people. And that's it. 8.2 billion people live on Earth today. 350 million more than did so 5 years ago. The current medium projection from the UN is that the population of the world will peak at around 10.2 billion people in about 60 years or so. Remains to be seen if that will come true. And with that, I'll see you in 5 years for an update.